Peace and power, and welcome to Divine Kink Foundations of Tantric BDSM. My name is Divine Ray, and I'll be your guide. Before we talk about power externally, I want us to really tap into our own internal power and feel it. If it's safe to do so where you are and you feel comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes and draw your attention inward. Think about the word power. Where does it live in your body? Is it in your head, behind your eyes? Is it in your throat, chest, stomach, or even lower? Notice without judging it. Now think about the word surrender. Where does that live? Do you feel your body soften? Do you tense up? Are you charged and electrified at the thought? Take a deep breath and just pay attention to those energies within you. Exhale, and when you're ready, open your eyes if you closed them and join us back in this time and space. Divine Kink is not about what we do in our scenes and power dynamics on a surface level. It's more about how consciously we do those things and how consciously we inhabit the power that lives within us, regardless of what side of the slash we fall on. So today we're going to talk about some history, some consent beyond the basics, and how to transform a BDSM scene that's surface level into a deeply connective, intimate, and even transcendental ritual. Let's start with Tantra. So, contrary to popular misconception and Hollywood sensationalism, like problematic movies that we've all seen, Tantra is not inherently sexual. It's a family of esoteric traditions that were developed in South Asia, particularly within Hinduism and Buddhism. But the roots are even older than even those traditions. So, Tantra is ritual technology. It works with polarity. We have the divine masculine and divine feminine, which are not about gender or sex, but more about two polarized ends of one energy, which is the divine energy that connects us all, the creation. We see this play out in nature with feminine and masculine representations and manifestations of plants, animals, and even us humans. And within that, the spectrum, there's all these fine points of intersectionality. So, Tantra also works in sound, breath, embodiment, and consciousness expansion, and the body really being a tool for that expansion and exploration. So, the roots of Tantra are really a mishmash of indigenous practices. So, mainstream scholarship places tantric textual development between the 5th and 9th centuries. However, many scholars agree that Tantra absorbed pre Vedic indigenous traditions from the people that were in the area. Before Indo Aryan Vedic culture entered that region, it, the subcontinent was home to cultures associated with what we now call the Indus Valley civilization. We have the Dravidians who were indigenous to that place. Archaeology from that civilization includes yogic seated figures. We have fertility symbolism, phallic and yonic imagery, and really where sacred sexuality was practiced as a natural form. So many scholars argue that later Shaiva tantric systems integrated these earlier ritual forms and kind of not replaced them, but integrated them into a more structured religion. There are also interpretive frameworks suggesting that human migrations from Africa into South Asia carried these cosmologies that were centered on sacred polarity, fertility reverence, trance, ritual, and sound based spiritual technologies. Now, this is debated and not universally accepted in academic scholarship. However, when we look at the Pangea, the original landform, it makes sense of why we see universal symbolism and archetypes throughout the world, and don't really know how they got there. But what is widely acknowledged is this: that Tantra did not emerge in isolation, and it evolved through migration, contact, and ritual blending. Most importantly, that erotic spirituality is ancient and predates colonial morality, oppression. It predates Victorian shame. So when we reclaim divine kink, we're not inventing something new. We're just remembering something older than colonial repression. And I go through the history of integration with other cultures because that is how we can tap into our own individual and ethnic backgrounds, regardless of our religious backgrounds or beliefs. We can find a way to tap into the divine right to pleasure, and we can use these tools no matter where we come, because nothing exists in a vacuum and we're all connected in some way. So there is the matter of what some may seem or call appropriation, but with the correct reverence and integration into your own practices versus replacement, there can be that intersectional aspect in a respectful way. So let's talk about BDSM, but just real surface level, because it was formalized structure power exchange in the 20th century, started really by queer leather communities, especially in cities like San Francisco and New York City, where Vietnam veterans returning from war, they held a major role in developing what we know today as the leather culture. So these communities developed negotiation, protocol, safe words, aftercare, frameworks, risk awareness. They turned the nature of desire and gave it structure. A lot of that, which came from the military, and having houses and families and ranks and things like that. So, so within divine kink, we live in a Venn diagram or Zen diagram, I like to call it, because there's that happy place in the middle where we can bring elements from Tantra and other spiritual practices, and we bring elements of BDSM and power exchange, and we find where they overlap, and we find where we can connect the dots, if you will. So on the tantric side, Tantra gives us energetic literacy. BDSM gives us architectural integrity and structure. And divine kink requires both. Energy without structure can become chaotic and quickly collapses and even becomes harmful. And structure without consciousness is surface level, it's hollow, it lacks deeper meaning, lacks deeper connection, and doesn't have really the tools to go deeper, as we often find that in power exchange we are looking for more than just a surface level connection. So let's deepen consent. um, in divine kink, we honor multiple levels of consent and include the unseen elements as well. And in both realms and in everything that we do, consent is the sacred governance of the power that we hold, and learning to use it in ethical ways. So, most people stop at structural consent. And yes, we need negotiation, we need safe words, we need aftercare. But divine kink goes a little deeper. So here on the screen, there's a few frameworks that are known and some newer ones like TIC, which is trauma informed consensual kink. And we have balls out risky kink. And all these are helpful for stepping into the basics of engaging with each other, and how do we gain consent to do some of these activities and interactions that could be harmful if we don't approach them with reverence and awareness. So, on a deeper level, emotional consent asks, when I dominate, am I leading or am I avoiding vulnerability, micromanaging to avoid being micromanaged myself? And when I submit, am I surrendering from a conscious place, or am I self abandoning because I want to be desired? I want to be chosen. Am I confusing intensity and action with intimacy and connection? So, emotional consent asks us to tap in deeper than just saying yes to any and everything. Energetic consent. Our body consents before our mouths really do. Um, think about the last time someone asked you to engage in something erotic or even something new or novel that was not inherently sexual. Did your body relax into that? Was it a fuck yes immediately? Did you have some hesitation or feel a little resistance or bracing in your body, freezing or fawning? Those things are not surrender. Like not being able to speak. Like sometimes we think about these butterflies in our stomach, but sometimes that could be mistaken for excitement when it's really unregulated nervous systems. So trauma bonding is not devotion, obviously, and intensity doesn't inherently mean that we are experiencing connection or even care. So energetic literacy means learning the difference between feeling activated or maybe even triggered from previous trauma and what really aligns with us. Divine kink requires nervous system acknowledgement, regulation, and care. And power is sacred when it is regulated and we are able to say yes from a mind, body, and soul level. So, this is where everything shifts. We have another Venn diagram with the overlaps between scenes and rituals. So, a scening is the physical choreography, and ritual is the intention, container, and integration of that choreography. So, in the middle here in the happy place, we have emotional intensity that are, you know, come from both. We have agreed roles, container creation, structured opening and closing. We have embodied focus, power reclamation, deeper intimacy. We have nervous system shifting, and we have integration. So I'll leave that to look at both sides. The main difference between just a regular scene and a ritual is the intention and the meaning that we give it, the pacing. And so we'll jump into a little bit of how to turn our rituals, or excuse me, how to turn our scenes into ritual. We'll do a quick deep dive, how to incorporate more elements into your scenes. So, step one, we want to clarify our intention. What are we transforming here? What's the nature of this work? Before the scenes, we tap in with each other. We can ask, what are we transforming with this work? What archetypes are we stepping into as individuals? What energy are we embodying in this unity? What are we amplifying? Is it authority, devotion, purification, initiation? Is it just pure pleasure and joy, which is very valid? It doesn't have to be this sterilized and clinical situation just to be reverenced and just to be sacred. That's the difference between divine kink and the church. We don't have to leave out our sexuality and our pleasure in order to tap into a deeper meaning, and tap into divine energies, and to tap into our most powerful selves. But without this intention, we're really just engaging in sensation play or, thrill seeking. Even the most mundane activities can become ritual, can become rites of passage, and deepen our connection when we give it purpose, intention, and the proper energy. So step 2, what are our roles? We're going to set this energetic container and establish the vessel that's holding the power that we want to wield or shift. So in Tantra, we learn to slow everything down. So we want to pause before we jump into play. We want to ritualize the scenario by um, deciding who we are tonight in this space. We can make eye contact, do some eye gazing. We can sync our breaths to make sure that we are connected on an energetic level and that we're on the same page. And we can speak our roles out loud and make it part of this ritual. It can look like I step into my sovereign authority in this moment and I offer my surrender and submission consciously, fully aware of my power. So invocations like these help us to get into headspace. They help us to shift the nervous system into a more relaxed and receptive mode. And again, it's all about that connection and that depth. So these things set the tone. They let us know on a mind and body level that we're here. This is now serious work that's happening, even if it's playful and a little silly. So like I mentioned in Tantra, it's about slowing things down and really being present. So we want to slow down and not jump into the most intense activity that we can. We want to introduce touch on a gentle and easing in kind of level. Many people rush to get to that intensity, but tantric touch is slow and present and intentional. When you touch someone or when you're being touched in a slow and gentle manner, your mind has no choice but to go to where the action is. So we're slowing our minds down, we're slowing down our commands, the first touch, and we're really letting the energy build through anticipation. That energetic charge goes a long way for allowing us to really tap in and bring our energy into the work that we're doing or the play. Step 4, we want to track that energy, not just our actions. So during the scene, the tops should be keeping track of what are some of the body responses that are happening. Is the breath deepening? Is it shallow and nervous? Is the power flowing or is it being forced? We want to check in verbally, of course, as we learn, but we also want to look for those um, nonverbal cues as well as honoring our safe words. We want to look for signs of distress, and that could be a little hard when you're first getting to know people. And that's where we tap in and we check in. And as S types and bottoms, what you're keeping track of is your own bodily responses. Am I going into flight or fight mode? Am I truly nervous, or is this energy that I'm holding out of excitement? Again, Tantra is really about energy awareness and being present on what's going on under the body or under the physical level, excuse me. So, our step 5, we want to make sure that we are closing out the ritual in a reverent way, the same way that we opened it. So, we slow again at the end of the ritual. That process may take some time depending on the intensity of the scene and the type of play or work that we've been doing. We want to close it intentionally and allow ourselves to come back into our space, our here and now. So, this could be as simple as stating, the ritual is complete. It is done. So mote it be. Ashe, amen. Whatever feels good to you, we close the circle. The work is done. This seals the container. It prevents the possibility of emotional leakage. It prevents some confusion from happening, from shifting into. If you just jumped up and left the scene and your partner's still in this um, subspace or top space, it could be a little jarring to the psyche, to the emotion, and to the nervous system of our partners. So this allows us to return to that centered energy, and it honors the power that was moved. It honors the work that we did, and the channels that we may have opened. We can close them, we can integrate, and we can discuss later what was shifted. And then aftercare and reflection. And so, like, closing out the ritual isn't quite where the aftercare jumps into place yet. That's its own kind of pre-care. And we want to just allow our nervous systems again to come back. And the aftercare can look like whatever it is that you negotiated with. We want to check on our physical, emotional, and energetic needs. We already have these things in place. People, um, things, foods, whatever we needed or whatever we negotiated at the beginning, they're already in place to assist with this segment of the interaction. We negotiated what aftercare looks like for individuals. That might be taking time apart, that might be coming together and just being. But when we're back in a clear and present headspace, then we can check in verbally to debrief what happened and to share any shifts that we may have experienced, to share any feedback, what came up for you. We can check in instead of just saying, are you okay? You know, here's this snack and this bottle of water. We can really tap in. What did you experience physically? What did you experience energetically? Did you feel any shifts in your mind or body or energy? What access to information came up for you? Some people are receiving these profound moments of clarity, downloads, and information during these cathartic moments in BDSM play. We want to acknowledge that and not just act like it was um, just something fleeting. These moments allow us to, while they're still fresh, capture and maybe even journal. Um, we can tap into each other in a really deeper way while we're still riding the tides of this pleasure, riding the waves. So, what part of you felt seen? Was there any part of you that was triggered and may need additional care? What do you need later to continue this integration of the work that we did? If you're working alongside um, professional therapists and other things and doing work that parallels what people are doing in their therapy, that might be something you want to talk about later with your care team. Might be something that needs integration. So we want to offer that to them and acknowledge where we just came and where we need to go from here. So, in closing, again, Divine Kink is not just about the performance. It's not about the aesthetic or about the candles you light, although those help create the mood and help us get in this to headspace. It's about the consciousness inside of that power exchange and that BDSM play. We can tap into where have we previously treated our power casually and maybe misused it or didn't know the effect of it, the depth of it. And where have we offered our surrender and submission without sovereignty? Where have we just blindly jumped into submission because we were people pleasing? What would you change? What could change in your life if your scenes became ritual, if they were more tapped in and more in tune? How would your relationships thrive? So, power is the safest inside of hands that are self aware. And surrender is most erotic and powerful when it is chosen from a conscious state. Thank you for being here, for listening to my Dom Sub Living Talk. I appreciate your energy. And here is my information if you're looking forward to more information like this and deep diving and stepping into your most powerful selves. Thank you.